At 17, Lila was already a woman. She was hardworking and disciplined. She was a delicate soul with her beautiful blue eyes as soft as the morning dew. She was her foster mom's favorite. Margaret, her foster mom, had taken her in at the age of 8 after her biological parents died in a fire accident. Lila had always been grateful to Margaret, who showered her with love. But Lila had a peculiar condition. She suffered from transient amnesia, a rare and debilitating memory disorder that caused her to lose hours, sometimes entire days, from her recollection. Margaret had convinced her this was due to the trauma of losing her parents. Whenever Lila awoke, disoriented and aching, Margaret would comfort her, stroke her hair, and assure her it was just the illness. "You just had another episode, my sweet girl," Margaret would coo, pressing a glass of herbal tea into her hands. "But don't worry, Mama's here to take care of you." For years, Lila accepted this explanation, never questioning why her episodes always left her feeling physically drained. She believed she was broken, someone whose mind betrayed her in cruel ways. Despite this, she clung to her innocence, her moral compass. Lila dreamed of true love, of a man who would accept her for who she was. She was saving herself for such a love. One night, as Lila was reading in bed, a strange sensation overtook her. She felt drowsy, her limbs heavy as lead. She tried to shake it off, blaming fatigue, but before she could process it, her vision blurred, and the world tilted sideways. When she woke, she was in her room, the sunlight filtering through the curtains. Her body ached, a deep soreness she couldn't explain. Margaret entered, her face a mask of concern. "You had another episode, sweetheart," Margaret said, sitting beside her. "It was a bad one this time." Lila wanted to believe her. She always did. But this time, a faint, hazy image flashed through her mind. A man's face, leering and unfamiliar. Panic welled in her chest. I think I remember something," Lila stammered, clutching her head. "There was someone. A man." Margaret's expression hardened for a fraction of a second before softening again. "That's just your mind playing tricks on you. It's a symptom of your condition. You've read about false memories, haven't you? Trust me, Lila, there's no one. You're safe." Doubt began to creep into Lila's heart. Over the next few weeks, she started paying attention, piecing together the fragments of her life. She noticed that Margaret was always insistent on preparing her tea before bedtime. The tea that made her feel so heavy and sleepy. She began pretending to drink it, pouring it down the sink when Margaret wasn't looking. One night, she stayed awake, feigning sleep. Hours later, the door creaked open, and she felt a presence in the room. Her heart raced as she heard the whispered murmur of voices, the rustling of unfamiliar hands near her bed. Summoning all her courage, she peeked through barely opened eyes and saw Margaret standing by the door, talking to a strange man. "I told you," Margaret whispered harshly. "She doesn't wake up. Do what you paid for, and leave." Lila's world crumbled. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Margaret was drugging her and selling her to men. The memory loss wasn't a disease. It was carefully orchestrated deceit. The next day, Lila decided to act. She pretended everything was normal, but secretly recorded a conversation with Margaret. "I know you're just trying to protect me," Lila said, her voice trembling. "But I keep feeling like something's wrong. Like someone is hurting me." Margaret sighed, her face tight. "Lila, you're too fragile to understand the truth. You need me to keep you safe. You wouldn't survive on your own." Lila pushed further, tears streaming down her face. "How could you do this? Sell me like a thing." Margaret's mask slipped, anger flashing in her eyes. "You owe me. I raised you, fed you, gave you a home. You'd be nothing without me." It was all Lila needed. That night, she ran away from home to the nearest police station with the recording. The investigation that followed uncovered years of abuse, not just of Lila, but of others Margaret had taken in under the guise of fostering. Margaret was arrested and convicted, her empire of lies destroyed. She gave up all of her clients who were majorly influential people in the community. That same year, Lila got an admission to the university to pursue her dream as a lawyer, to help be the voice of children that are underprivileged and helpless.